Welcome back to the opener, a Rays podcast. We've got episode 2 here, already starting to feel a little more comfortable in the situation. I'm Zach Broderson here with my co-host Will Gellner. We're a couple weeks into spring here. Will, how are you opening today?
I'm going to open with how we closed the last episode because we had some technical error. I'm opening with 2018 Joey Wendell. This guy, acquired the same day the Yankees got Giancarlo Stanton, and this guy ended up being an all-star. This guy ended up being a World Series player on that World Series run that the Rays had, and I think he finished 3rd or 4th in that Rookie of the Year voting for that year.
Fourth place,
yeah. So we're opening up with Joey Waddle like a duck, giant forearms, no batting gloves, Wendell.
Just the most crouched you can possibly be with the bat out. He had 4.7 WAR that season, 2018. Is that good?
I would say that plays.
Yeah, that was his best year. 2021, his age 31 season, he had 3.8 WAR, and the Rays got both of those. So Joey Wendell is without a doubt a Ray, a part of Rays history. He finished a career with the Mets, but played a couple seasons in Miami before that, and that was it. But man, magical year. And just a perfect quintessential Rays, legend, Joey Wendell. I can't think of a better way to.
What more can you
start.
ask for, right?
Yeah. Exactly. We could maybe use a Joey right now. We might have a new Joey in Ben Williamson. We'll see. Mm-hmm. So, episode 2, we've got a handful of things to go through. I think at the top here, I want to start with the WBC. There's a lot to talk about Rays and even a little beyond the Rays for the WBC. Then we're going to get into State of the Rays, kind of our recurring segment here, taking a look at talk a little bit about spring training, how the roster's shaping up at that point. Then we want to look at the new top prospects list, and there are some movers and shakers, and obviously we have a lot of new guys here in the building, so we'll cover some of that. Might talk a little bullpen at some point in here, and then we'll start heading towards wrapping up. So this is what we've got on the docket. WBC, World Baseball Classic. We're in about halfway through pool play at this point. The U.S. hasn't really been tested yet, but some Rays players have been passing a lot of tests, not that they really needed them. None more impressive than Junior Caminero, who is becoming a world superstar. It's been so exciting to watch him, knowing that this guy's on our team.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I feel like now it's expected in the WBC that the Rays have a standout guy in it, right? You had Randy Arozarena, who, had his signature cross-arm pose in the WBC for Mexico, and now, there are some other guys that are performing, right? Jonathan Aranda had a big home run for Mexico, but, the talk of the town is Junior Caminero, man. This guy is hitting every ball above pretty much 110 exit velo. He's having some big home runs, some huge moments, There's a lot of talk in the offseason, right, about how Junior Caminero was going to look after his breakout season, right? Not playing at Steinbrenner anymore, right? Had some pretty bad road splits. He still had more home runs on the road, but some of his averages and OPS and things like that were a bit lower. And now you see him, right, kind of proving all these people wrong, like, hey, I don't need to play at Steinbrenner. I'm still going to hit the ball hard, and I'm going to be probably the best guy on the field, even at just 22 years old or 23 years old. However, it's 22 or 23 now. And yeah, it is incredible to watch. You and I, we were doing our fantasy baseball draft, and in the middle, you just say, Junior just hit a 116 exit velo home run off the bat. It's like an expected thing now, right? That he's going to
It's feeling inevitable. Like when he's coming to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On a roster that is a lineup that is completely stacked, which he's on, he has stood out as maybe the best hitter right now, and that is no easy feat. And not only that, is he's showing he's a natural leader, which I think we saw some of that a little bit last year with the Rays and his excitement level and passion. There's no doubt that he wants to succeed himself, but we just get to see more and more how much he's a team player, how much he gets the joy out of helping the team succeed. So the home run he hit, which I'll probably put up on the screen here in post. The home run he hit, the camera angle, I swear that ball to center, it looked like he hit that 150 miles an hour. The way that the camera, I mean, that was like, there's not a lot of people who can hit that type of home run. That's a Stanton-esque low bullet laser beam. Like him, Vladdy Jr. will pull some of those off every now and then. Just an absolute rocket. And then just the celebration. And then later it comes out that he's kind of leading them in the clubhouse, like giving hype speeches and telling guys that they need to go to the optional practices and that it's not optional for us, you know? They are looking scary, and Junior is a huge part of why.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're playing for your country, right? It's pretty much the Olympics without the Olympics. So there's, you know, especially where they are playing, you know, there's so much writing on it, right? They're not just playing for themselves and to get this, you know, oh, hey, did you see me on the WBC? I hit this big home run. They're playing for, you know, their whole country and representing them. Every time Junior has hit a home run and he's rounding third, he's you know, he's pointing right at his chest. He's going right across the Dominican Republic, right across his chest, right? So I love seeing him take this leadership role, especially on a team like the Rays that kind of look at it, they don't really have that leadership, right? Brandon Lau was kind of the guy, and they moved him, so there's that vacancy spot. And honestly, if you are looking at the long-term feeling of the org, you do want Junior to be that leader in the clubhouse. I saw him in spring training before anything started. He went to Cedric Mullins. He said, hey, if you need something, come to me, man. And that's crazy to see, this young guy going up to this veteran first year on the team and saying, hey, if you need something, let me know. I got you. So it's pretty incredible to watch, and I can't wait to see how that actually unfolds throughout the season too.
Sometimes a superstar player is not always a superstar personality or superstar person in general, and it seems like with Junior, every day that goes by and we learn more about him as a player and a person, and Ken Babby said pretty much exactly this, which goes back to the extension talk we had at the beginning. I mean, the price of the brick is going up every single day for Junior Caminero, so I hope that behind the scenes we are working on that extension, because the only way for a long period here is up. The only way with him is up, just it getting better and better. You look at somebody like a Jose Ramirez, who seems to have he seems to be a little bit timeless. Like, he's getting older, but he's still as athletic as ever. But that kind of extension is, you know, that he just got in the offseason, on top of the restructuring, the addition of, I think it was 3 more years. That's a totally different, he's an amazing player, but, you know, there's an argument to be made that he's going to be getting worse throughout that contract. And you could give Junior a contract right now with his age where he's getting better through most, if not all of it, depending on how many years. So it just seems like he is a star, and that this is the right thing for us to do as an organization.
Yeah, and we you know, we said we touched on it last time, and yes, there is chance that Junior does not have the same season and his value goes low, but as of right now, it is just going higher and higher and higher, right? He's being the leader in the clubhouse. He's being the leader on the WBC team. And he's, you know, as young as he is, it's kind of crazy to think that he hasn't reached his prime yet. So, yeah, he is somebody that, you know, is going to be expensive, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you can lock him up maybe before he gets a little too expensive for this team.
Yes. Now, Junior, although he has flashed the most, is not the only guy showing how much of a star he really is on the world stage. Jonathan Aranda with a 3-run homer in the top of the 8th to go ahead against Team Great Britain, the lads, and he also is showing similar, you know, passion and excitement, which he's a pretty mild-mannered guy. You know, he's pretty even keel, at least on the outside. You can tell how much it means to him. And I think Team Mexico always seems to have some really passionate players. I mean, we just talked about Randy and how, you know, what he brings to the table. I also love the fact that Aranda was hitting, I think it was 2nd or 3rd, and right behind him was Alejandro Kirk, his lifelong friend, you know, that grew up playing together, and now they're on the same team. And so and it was, by the way, opposite field shot. Now, it was Crawford boxes, so, you know, but, I mean, he's just such a hitter. He's such a hitter.
Yeah, honestly, you know, Jonathan Aranda wasn't a guy I was super sold on in the Rays org. I feel like they had kind of given him some chances to see what he can do, and he never did. But he did have that kind of end of season breakout in 2024, and obviously his All-Star season last year, and it was cut short due to his injury, right? So we didn't really get to see a full season of what he does, but it is good to see him, already had a good spring, and now he comes in the WBC and is hitting opposite field home runs. Seems like his swing is still very consistent throughout. And he's had some other, I'm pretty sure, a couple hits here and there for the team too, but also playing a pretty solid first base. So yeah, he's another guy, right? When you're kind of looking at the Rays, obviously Junior is the big talk, but you also have guys like Jonathan Aranda that is, a pretty crucial part of this team now, and possibly a pretty big part of it for their future, for what they're kind of looking to build towards.
I'm interested to see how Cash manages the lineup with those guys. So Junior, I think, I could be wrong, but I think he primarily hit fourth most of last year, maybe third sometimes. I'd be interested to see if he hits further up, if he's hitting, second. I'm not sure, because he still doesn't have the on-base ability that a Yandy Diaz has. And then, Gavin Lux, at least against righties, that's kind of his calling card, is that contact and on-base ability. So I could see that's how Fangraphs has it with Lux in the one. But my point here is, do you put Aranda behind Caminero? Do you go or you might have to go, you need somebody behind Junior that a pitcher has to face that, you don't want to face. And if you're going to try to go righty-lefty, Aranda seems like the guy you'd want behind him. So maybe you go Lux, but then you could go Yandy, Lux, Caminero, Aranda, something like that at the top.
Yeah, to kind of jump on your point there, Yandy Diaz is one of the best leadoff hitters in baseball, right? He has a good view of the strike zone and good on base percentage, even a good slugging, especially when you're playing somewhere like Steinbrenner. So it's kind of weird how Kevin Cash is going to put this lineup together, because then you also have Chandler Simpson, who, when you kind of look at him, is a leadoff hitter, right? He's a very contact guy, but he gets on base. That's kind of what you're looking off your leadoff guy. So I wonder if there's a world where, Chandler becomes the leadoff guy. They put someone like Junior Yandy hitting second, and then the Aranda and Caminero kind of maybe follow after. I think it really depends. You don't want the situation where Caminero's the bottom of those 3 or 4 guys, and then no one really competitive after him, right? So you can, in a world, I don't have to pitch this guy. The next guy I'm facing is Taylor Walls or Cedric Mullins. I'm a little bit more worried about Caminero doing damage to me than some of these other guys. So yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty big matchup, and the lineup will evolve as the season goes on, right? I anticipate it would be more of like a Yandy, Aranda, Caminero. I see Caminero in the third spot pretty well, because Jonathan Aranda also has great bat-to-ball skills. So it's just kind of what they do after, and it also just depends how guys are looking as the season starts. When we get to the All-Star break, it's going to be constantly changing, I would say.
Yeah, hopefully it's a classic Rays situation where we've just are throwing all kinds of different lineups out there and optimizing for the pitcher, what they throw, the team, all kinds of different numbers behind the scenes. So both these guys have looked excellent at the WBC, and what an opportunity. And we did see Griffin Jax coming out of the pen for USA, Mr. USA himself, with his history in the service. This is one I don't want to get wrong. I don't know if he was in the service, but
I don't know if he was in it. I'm pretty sure I know he went to Air Force for university. I don't know if he served. I think everyone that goes there, you're planning to, unless you do go pro. So I'm pretty sure what I heard is he's the first player to graduate from there and go play in the MLB. So obviously wearing USA across your chest after going to, U.S. Air Force is obviously a pretty important moment and a pretty big deal for him and, everybody.
Yeah, you could tell. And he's also kind of a stoic type of guy. So, but how much it means to him. And it says he's an officer in the Air Force Reserve. So I'm saying he in the service. Thank you for your service on and off the field, Griffin. So, I mean, just as a globe before we move over to the next topic, just I have so much fun watching the WBC. I don't care if it's like a blowout or if some of the players I've never heard of on some of these teams, and some of them are really extending the eligibility of what it means to play for certain teams. But it is so much fun, and I think as we obviously get into the bracket, when we do trim a little bit of the fat out, this is going to be huge, huge. So, and I'm actually going to the final, so I will be reporting back here onto the opener what the environment is like, and I'm just hoping that the U.S. is going to make it. So,
yeah, it is awesome to watch, right? I mean, obviously there's the teams like Mexico and the DR and USA and Japan that are the juggernauts, but it is still very nice to see all these other countries still get representation in these games. And you see them, some of them, they put up, they're not maybe the most competitive games, especially as we get to the later innings, but early on there is, some back and forth between these games. I'm pretty sure when Aranda hit his home run and Caminero hit his, these games were tied, right? So these weren't, blowout home runs that, just kind of pour salt in the wound. They are, important home runs in that moment of the game. So yeah, it's fun to watch. I mean, I would like to think that baseball does this every year, but I'll take what we can get right now.
Yeah. Yes. So it's just a blast. It makes this part of the year just that much more fun with spring. And that's a good transition for our next segment here. So state of the Rays and spring training as a whole kind of combined. There's just a lot of different things to cover here. We have also had some news off the field. We spent a lot of time on the stadium and the new ownership, and things continue to slowly but surely head in the right direction with managing the relationships and getting, because there's obviously a lot of stakeholders to get a stadium deal across the line, and we still have nothing but good news so far. So hopefully that continues moving forward in the right direction as far as on the field. So we're a couple weeks into spring, and we've gotten, they've trimmed some of the roster down, a few of the younger guys that were up and playing with, mixed results. But, we've trimmed the roster down a little bit here, and we've gotten to see some ball. And I think part of me is like, maybe I was underestimating us. I mean, our record's not good in spring training. We have played a lot of, two of our best hitters, first of all, are in the WBC. Spring training record doesn't really matter, but I've seen some flashes from a lot of guys and some struggles as well. But I'm curious, Will, what you've really been taking notice of so far through spring, surprises or maybe things that you did expect, and I'm curious about your report.
Yeah, I've been loving that we just have ball to watch, right? I'm pretty sure I'm locked in. It's just spring, like every single day. Even the prospects that are playing, I'm locked in to see how these guys are playing, because it's just baseball that we do get, right? There's a couple of big, standouts we could go over. Brody Hopkins, right? He's one of the guys that just kind of got cut from the spring training, which was expected, right? We weren't going to see Brody Hopkins make the opening day roster. Nobody thought it was. And honestly, it's better sometimes to get these guys cut loose a little bit earlier rather than waiting so long and then it happens to them. But he started 2 games, right? It was a low average, but a high whip. So his walk were a bit high in them. But yeah, again, right, you're not expecting him to really be this incredible go out there, throw, 3 innings every time, 9 strikeouts, no walks, right? It's from what I understand, it's his first, real big spring training, right? He's one of the top prospects in baseball now. So, probably just refining his skills a little bit. Obviously, we got to see Shane make his first start since spring training last year. And, obviously he had a lot of stuff outside of baseball going on. So just seeing him take the mound, throw 2 innings, 2 hits, no walks, no runs, and have a strikeout, like, you just have to feel good about that. I'm pretty sure the first fastball he threw was like 92 miles per hour just because he was trying to keep it back a little bit. So, that's a good feeling to see from him. Jacob Melton keeps hitting the ball insanely hard when he does. I'm pretty sure he's broken StatCast. There's been times where he's hit the ball and you're not getting, you see it, you'll fly out and there's no exit field, there's no distance, and you just have to think like, oh, is this,
you're right.
This guy, like the StatCast needs a new update to keep up with Jacob Melton, right? Is he going to make the opening day roster? Probably not. He has some stuff he still has to work on, but it's pretty good a look. And then someone else a bit of a shout out and a little bit of not a shout out is Carson Williams. He's been playing well, right? His bat has looked good, and obviously with Carson Williams, he can hit. It's just the strikeouts that are the big problem, and that is always kind of what hurts him. He doesn't have too many strikeouts this spring, which is really, really good. The big issue is his fielding right now. He's still kind of making these errors, and for someone whose calling card throughout the minors and the Rays system was, this guy has an amazing glove. He is so smooth with it. He looks great. I think you and I are both kind of still waiting to see that greatness of him, right? Of making some of these, because then you see Taylor Walls, and it's still spring, but Taylor Walls making diving plays and stuff.
He made a diving play like 2 or 3 days ago. That was just
exactly
classic Taylor Walls.
You're still kind of just looking for that from Carson Williams, right?
Yes.
Carson doesn't really have too much he has to jump over. It's Taylor Walls that he has to beat out. So as long as you could play a great glove and bat 215, 210, and hit maybe 10 home runs, you have a path to the bigs. But your opportunities, you cannot be making errors, especially some simple ones, right? Kind of laying the ball, a fly ball that comes up that maybe you take your eye off and it bounces off from the sun. But these are mistakes that Carson 100% has to fix before the Rays are going to have him ready. And I could keep going about a whole bunch of different guys, but I feel like Shane and Brody and Melton and Carson are, probably the best guys to touch on, right? Drew has looked good. Mason Engler, it looks like he might be getting stretched out a little bit for some big bullpen roles. And Chandler Simpson is dropping some bunts that we might see a little bit more of in the season. So I would say the guys you want to look good for spring, the guys that are going to be making an impact on opening day on day one, have looked good.
It's been mostly good news so far, I would say. We're still a couple guys that are injured or nursing some things. I mean, Chandler's hamstring, that really, we talked about it in the first episode. That's concerning when your game is made overwhelmingly off of your legs to have hammy issues. So TBD, it's supposed to be minor, but you never know. And we have not seen Gavin Lux yet, who we were talking about before. So hopefully he can get some reps in. Uceda's not looking like he'll be ready for opening day. So, but, like you said, a lot of the big guys that you're looking to lead us to success this year seem to be on the right path, especially McClanahan. You could tell how emotional that moment was for him. A different guy that I want to highlight is Ben Williamson. We have seen a lot of Ben Williamson, and we just saw something today that we haven't seen yet, which was a over 400, I think it was 420-foot home run. Mm-hmm. There was a video, some of the guys on Twitter who are at the games are kind enough to share, behind the plate footage, and this is pretty exciting because that's the part of his game that is not really what he's here for, but when you can show that you've got the ability to pop one of those like that every now and then, that is exciting. He's played a lot in spring. He's played all around the infield. And I think we're going to see a nice tandem this year between him and Taylor Walls and him and Gavin Lux on certain days. Or, he probably will fill in for Lux against lefties. But up the middle, we're going to be really strong with the improved defense in center field, whether it's Mullins or DeLuca. I'm feeling optimistic. I had us over under. And I'm starting to see the vision more and more, and I'm starting to feel really good about the team and some of the guys that we brought in. It was such a roster overhaul, and I'm getting more excited as we get closer to opening day.
Yeah, I was telling you before, it used to be the Rays call, hang up the phone. They don't want to trade with you. Now the new thing is if you have a trade with another team and the Rays call to get involved with it, you have to hang that phone up. Because, the Rays are just nonstop making these 3-team trades. Now we have Ben Williamson, who looks like he could, Kevin Cash has talked about Ben Williamson, specifically him, that he's not getting talked about enough. And that he can come in, he can play all around the infield. So if you have, if you need Junior to have a day off, if Taylor Walls needs a day off, if he needs to platoon with Gavin Lux, or if there's some sort of injury that happens, the Rays are already set to go with this guy. And from what I've heard from Mariner fans on places like Twitter and Instagram is, we got a pretty good guy from them, right? He's not going to be, maybe like a Bobby Witt Jr., but, he's going to be a Ray. He might be like 2018 Joey Wendell, right? This guy we randomly grabbed, and I'm excited to see what the Rays do with him. I'm sure we will see him plenty of times throughout the season, and I'm sure there's going to be a couple of times he has, that signature Rays moment that everyone somehow seems to have when they put the starburst across their jersey, or the sunburst across their jersey.
Yeah, even Jerry DiPoto for the Mariners, he said, he was speaking very highly about Neander. Like if you're struggling to get a trade done, the Rays will jump in and mix it up with a 3-team trade. We've seen that a lot. So it seems like, they do business all the time, those guys, but it seems like we're still wheeling and dealing. I still have no concerns with our front office and haven't for a long time. So, not everything's going to work out. You might get Christopher Morel and you understand why you got him, but he might not actually be good at baseball. We'll see. For the Marlins, He might hit 40 home runs for the Marlins this year, and then I don't know if he has a position though. So we'll see.
We'll see what they choose to do. Because I remember when the Rays got Morel, it was he's going to play second base, and then that didn't really work out. And it's like, he's going to play the outfield, and then he just stopped seeing the field. So we'll see. I always liked Christopher Morel. I still think he's young, and he maybe still has it. If you look at his Savant page, it's a little weird. He went from spraying the ball to just pulling the ball. I don't know if it's a Rays thing or his thing, but I would like to see him succeed in the National League, and if it is success, just not against the Rays.
Yes. Not in the Sunshine Series, the rivalry series that we've got a couple of. So I think that at this point, things are becoming clear as to what this team, you never know for sure, but it looks like we know who's going to be on the opening day roster for the most part. It looks like Carson Williams will be in AAA. It looks like Jacob Melton will most likely be in AAA unless Chandler Simpson is injured. So, keep your eye on that. The rotation was already set in. I think the bullpen, we've seen so many arms coming and going. I think the bullpen is, we know for sure that Jax, Clevenger, Baker, and Uceda when he comes back, those are the four that are locked in. There's some other guys who don't have options, so we have Sulser and Gomez. So I guess maybe, unless you're cutting somebody, which I don't expect that, or making a trade, those guys are most likely going to be there. The two guys, the other two, Englert, we've talked about, he's probably going to be there in a long role, maybe even eating some innings. And then you got Biggie and Kelly. Biggie and Kevin Kelly are the two that I think are not for sure. Biggie has the stuff and is, he had a emotional interview with Ryan Bass this week. Just what it means to be back on the field for him. And at some point during the interview, he's standing in the dugout, and it's during an at bat and during an inning, and he's constantly got his head on a swivel because, he's rightfully wondering, God forbid another ball came screaming this way. So it's profound stuff. I didn't fully appreciate what it truly, and yes, it goes without saying, but I don't think I still fully appreciated how difficult it could be to get back out on the mound. And especially on the mound where, a ball could come screaming right back at you after you have something traumatic like that happen. So I digress. There's a couple spots that are still in the air. I think Biggie probably could get a spot. Kevin Kelly, I do not really want him on the opening day roster. I'm going to just be honest with you. I'm a Kevin Kelly hater. I know he's had good moments. He's got a funky release. It's just, if you're going to throw, I think he's been experimenting with a changeup, but if you're going to throw a 91, 92 mile an hour sinker 70% of the time, you better be able to locate it well and better be able to use the other pitches effectively. We didn't see that from him last year. He really struggled.
Yeah, the bullpen's weird, right? Usually sometimes the Rays, their bullpen, or if their bullpen's struggling, they magically just make all these changes and the bullpen is lights out. It's either one or the other. It's either really, really good or it's just really, really bad, and then they try it and end up fixing it. So they do have a lot of open spots, right? If Uceda's not on the opening day roster, or at least on the IL to start opening day, that puts a little bit more strain on the back end of the bullpen, right? You have Clevenger and Clevenger and Jax that are, the two big guys, right? You have Brian Baker. I really like Hunter Biggie. I think the Rays see a lot in him. Said he has the stuff, and I think last year he would have had a bigger role if that that's such a freak injury to happen. How much do you watch baseball? And you honestly, it's something you'd expect more of a foul ball going into these dugouts. And, I'm very glad that he's back on the mound, right? I'm sure if even a fraction of what happened to him had happened to me, I'd probably be terrified to be in the dugout and even like on the front step like he sits on. But there is a lot of, I guess, flexibility maybe is a word you could put for it, right? Mason Angler's kind of trying to carve out that role. They've been maybe like extending him out. I know the other game he pitched about, into the third or into the fourth inning, and he's trying to have a spot, right? You have, Kevin Kelly, who's kind of been a mainstay in the bullpen and has had good moments, but, especially last year when he came back from injury, anytime he came into the game, it felt like the Rays were just punting the game away, right? Trying to just save that bullpen. But then you have, you still have Joe Boyle and Ian Seymour, right? How are they going to fit into this bullpen? Do the Rays just put them in AAA and just keep them starting, waiting to go for a spot start? And then you also have Manuel Rodriguez, who is recovering from Tommy John, who should be back around the All-Star break. So you have guys, when you look at the Rays active pitching, right? You even have other guys like Cole Sulser, like 33 years old, 36 years old or something.
Yeah, he's older. Yeah, he's 36.
And then you have, their prospect Joe Rock, who's also on it. So this seems like kind of like one of those seasons where the Rays, if they have the guy with options, they're going to bring him up, have him pitch, and then the next day send him back to AAA and then wait a couple of days and bring him back up. It seems like they're constantly going to be shuffling around this bullpen. And I think we had talked about it before. You're going to see multiple guys be getting saves, right? They did it before in 2018 and 2019 where they would just bring guys in and everybody was expected to be a high leverage reliever and everyone was expected to come in. You could be a closer. Griffin Jackson, we could see come in the seventh inning or in the eighth inning or the ninth inning, right? You could see Hunter Bickey come in the eighth or ninth inning. Everyone has to be ready to go in this bullpen. And might bother some people. I'm kind of glad we moved on from Pete Fairbanks because when you have that established closer on your team, it does kind of feel like a crutch that you use a little bit. This guy knows he's going to go in the ninth. Even if it's not the best matchup, this guy's our closer and this is who we're going to run with. I think this gives the Rays probably a little bit more flexibility to what they want to do in those ending of games.
I agree. And we did, there were some rough moments, but overall it was a good year for Pete, for Wide-Eye Pete last year. I think maybe he's got one or two more good years in him, but he's on the decline. The velocity was down a couple miles per hour last year, and he did start to experiment with that cutter, and I still feel like he's going to be fine in Miami for a year. I think it's a 1-year deal. We'll see where he finishes this season. Probably not in Miami, but I agree. I mean, I am thinking Jax as the closer. That's my. I know you don't love Jax, but the stuff is so good. The strikeout ability is really good, and I think that's what you're looking for. Uceda, for the same reasons, could also be that guy. And I would prefer. So here's the issue that I have with this bullpen is there's one lefty right now, Garrett Clevenger, and he's excellent. He's a very good lefty, honestly underappreciated. We haven't seen him yet in the WBC, but he's definitely going to have some important innings at some point here when we get into the bracket. That's my one concern, and that's also, as much as I don't really like Kevin Kelly that much, but I would be taking him out and putting either Ian Seymour or Joe Rock in his place to start the year so that we can have two lefties in the bullpen. That would be my take on it. So we'll see. This is the part of the roster that I'm still not sure what we're going to do yet.
Yeah, I wish we had this, pretty tall reliever that was a lefty that was young and maybe threw like 99, 100 miles per hour. Some guy like the Pirates, they have Mason Montgomery, right? That'd be pretty nice to have him in this bullpen. But
yeah, we don't know if he can actually pitch yet. We know he can throw, but we're still not sure if he can pitch.
Yeah, I would kind of lean more towards Joe Rock as the other lefty, with the only reason is I don't want Ian Seymour to develop that, maybe not mindset, but game where he's just a reliever now, right? He comes in for an inning or two innings. Yeah. I do see Ian Seymour as a very strong starter that this team can use, whether it's this year or next year. He's still very young, but I don't want him to kind of get shortened up. You only pitch 1 or 2 innings, and then next year they want to stretch you out, and now it's this whole big process.
Yeah.
So I would try to see just what Joe Rock has, right? If he's still young, if he has what it takes, right? Last year in 4 games he had a 2.25 ERA. Is that a big sample size? No, he pitched 4 innings. But I would like to see what he can do in maybe about 35, 40 appearances.
Yeah. The good thing is no matter how things exactly shape up, I really like what we're doing on the entire pitching side of things. Like I pretty much always do, but I like our plan going into this year, and I'm seeing the vision. The bottom half of the lineup is not great. That's going to be our crux of it, but yeah, the team's coming together. I mean, I'm more optimistic now than I was in the beginning on many fronts. We did see Nick Martinez, and he got shelled in his first spring training appearance. So, this is I think, did he end up being the most expensive guy that we brought in this year? I think it was 1 year 13, I want to say.
Yeah, I'd have to double check. It was either him or Mullins, I think, was around 12 million.
Mullins was, I think, 7 or 7.5,
oh, okay.
which I think that's going to end up being a pretty good deal.
And then we had the Steven Matz contract. So it's definitely one of we didn't bring in a crazy amount of people this offseason that we signed, but I know Nick Martinez was a pretty late signing, but it wasn't just, hey, here's a $5 million contract. It was like $13 million that they offered him for the 1 year.
It was 13, which just kind of what you're gonna get. He's a kitchen sink guy and doesn't walk anybody, so hopefully he can stay healthy. And so we'll see. That's the one guy who there's a couple guys who've been touched up at times in spring training, but his was notable. And again, spring training. So is there anything else in state of the Rays spring training that you want to hit on here?
No, they've been talking about the Rays road jerseys a little bit, which I think
yes.
I like talking about this ownership group. I feel like they're doing the right stuff. I know I told you that the last ownership group felt like they burned every bridge out there, and this new one, they're almost like a construction site, and they're like, hey, we're just going to rebuild this bridge, right? One bit at a time. We're like the Courtney Campbell Cosby. There's construction on us constantly, but first it was talking to the fans on Twitter about what they want to see, and now it's, hey, these are the 4. We're looking at 4 jerseys for our away team. Which one do you guys like? And it's the gray and Tampa Bay with the old school coloring on it, but there's also been some other ones. I saw something that it is very possible we see some sort of rebranding of this team coming up with this new ownership group, and somebody mentioned the Lightning Stadium Series colors could possibly be a color option for the Rays they might be looking into. There's been some things with hats, and even in those away jerseys, that Tampa Bay had that same light blue as the Stadium Series. So I'm kind of interested to kind of keep an eye on that. Obviously, I don't think much is going to happen this year in terms of it. I'd say pretty hush, but I would love a little bit more of those Rays light blues. Those are some of my favorite jerseys that they have.
That's our background. That's why we've got our background here. The Rays light blue. So we're on brand. We're on theme. I love it. And you're right. I mean, obviously this is by design. This is intentional. But still, the ownership group is making a great impression. They're just seem to be checking every box, and I'm very optimistic on a lot of things. So let's transition here, because the 2026 prospect rankings are out, top 30 for the Rays, and a lot has changed. A lot has changed, as it always does, not just with guys that we've had in the system before going up or down, but also with some of the new talent that we brought in both the draft from last year, but trades that we have done in the offseason. So when I look at the top 30 list and just going down, naming a few names, I don't always know if I agree with this, but they've got Daniel Pierce, our first rounder, ranked 5th here. He's obviously going to be in rookie ball, but that's new. So you got Melton ranked 4th. Brito is ranked 6th, who's new. Forret coming in is new, ranked 8th. Slater DeBrun, new from the offseason, 10th. There's a handful of other ones. That was just the top 10. So a lot of guys that we just recently traded for. This is where you can see the strategy to restock the farm system that I think needed to be done if we're going to do things the way that we've always done things for the Rays. So that's notable to me. There's a lot of names in here that are just recently Rays. And then I know you've got some good information here on the guys who moved up or down a lot, and there's a few notable ones there.
Yeah, I wrote down the more notable ones, right? First off, I was actually very surprised that Carson was still our number one prospect. I feel like people might listen to this and think I'm a Carson hater. I'm really not a Carson hater. I'm actually very high on Carson Williams, but we've seen him be a top prospect in the MLB Top 100. That's fallen a lot, and the big reason is his strikeout. So I actually thought that Brody Hopkins or Theo Gillen was just going to take over.
So let me get this on the 1, 2, 3 is Williams, Gillen, Hopkins. Just for those listening, that's your 1, 2, 3. Williams, Gillen, Hopkins.
Yep. So the top 6 stayed identical from that they were in 2025, right? And that's even after all the trades that they did in the offseason. So some big jumps, right? TJ Nichols, the biggest jump on this list. He went from the 25th prospect all the way up to the number 7 prospect in New York, which is incredible to see this kind of jump from him. It's pretty remarkable, right? Another pretty big one is catcher Nathan Flueling, if I'm pronouncing that right. He went from 29 up to 11, which is pretty crazy. I did my own kind of deep dive into him, and I thought, it's him and Kadine Bodine, I think is the...
Caden Bodine.
Yeah. And those two are very similar players, right?
Yes.
And it was very crazy to actually see that Flueling jumped up into nearly the top 10. Your guy, Jahir Arenamo, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Arenamo.
Yep. Right.
That's a tough one.
28 to 15.
Yes.
That's a huge jump. I know you were
big part of this
on this guy.
Would have been his Argentine. I think it was the Argentinian league that he played in over the winter. I'm pretty sure it was. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong, but he was the MVP of the league. He went nuts.
Yeah, so a huge jump from. I knew you were going to be happy when you saw it. And then entering the top 10, Santiago Suarez going from 16 to 9. So there's a lot of, you kind of, like you were saying, you kind of see why the Rays did all this in the offseason, because you have all these guys that have just now skyrocketed up in these rankings. It's not, they're not going up, 5 or 5 or 4 spaces or 6 spaces. You got guys jumping up into the top 10 and the top 15, which kind of shows how the farm was, right? Even if it didn't reflect in the 2025 top 10, there was a lot of room of improvement for this farm and the players that were in there. So it is good to see that. Now, there were some pretty notable drops in it. And there's 3 players that I kind of highlighted in this because they're probably the 3 that most Rays fans are going to recognize, right? Braden Taylor, I did not include him in this because he was not in the top 30 rankings at the end of 2025. I'm pretty sure he started 2025 as like number 5. And as the season went on, he dropped out of it. So I didn't include him in this. Did hit a home run today, my guy. First, Xavier Isaac, he went from 9 to 14. Obviously, it's because of that off-season surgery or in-season surgery that he had. And it makes sense, right? They wouldn't keep him as a top 10 prospect, especially when you're not sure about what his future looks like. Brendan Summerhill, he dropped from 12 to 21. Obviously, that's pretty. You're touching the top 10, and now you're all the way back into the back 10. And then first baseman Trey Morgan, a long time highly touted prospect with the Rays, went from 11 to 19. Yeah. Which and I could kind of see why. You see him this spring, and he has not looked good.
This one strikes a nerve for me because I think he's such an interesting player. Imagine the greatest defender you've ever seen at first base. Just Matt Olson is a very, very good defender at first base for the Braves. I mean, it's such a weird and exciting profile that I just wish he could hit better. I actually was surprised that he was at 11 initially. That was lower than I would have thought, but I hope it works out for Trey because he's a cool player that I want to see at the major league level, but I'm not super optimistic about it right now.
Yeah, the big issue with Trey, I think that when they do the rankings they look at is just his bat, right? He doesn't have a bad bat, but he's not the power bat you see with first baseman. He plays a great glove, which is his calling card, but I think that's why he took such a big jump when people look at those first base prospects. I'm still pretty big on him. Not sure what the Rays are going to do with him, especially when you have Jonathan Aranda up there. But
yes,
So we'll have to see how it goes. And then
he's not exactly that fast either. So when you want to like put him in the outfield, I don't know about what his range would be in the outfield.
Yeah, he's a first baseman. I mean, I don't see the Rays ever putting him there, but especially with all that outfield that they have this team. So yeah, a pretty big drop. Be looking pretty closely at him throughout the AAA season. And then a couple other small drops. These aren't anything crazy, nothing to exaggerate or go crazy over, but Slater DeBron, he dropped from 8 to 10. Nothing crazy. Aiden Smith dropped out of the top 10. He went from 10 to 12. I haven't seen much of Aiden Smith in the spring. I'm not sure if there's an injury or something. But that was very, it's, I have to look more into that because I have not seen Aiden Smith this spring. And he's somebody that I think the Rays have their sights set on to kind of take over the outfield in a couple of years. And then Cooper Fleming dropped from 21 to 28. And finally, Dominic Keegan went from the top-ranked catcher prospect in the org. He's now the third top-ranked prospect in the org. And I think we could be seeing the days where Dominic Keegan was thought of taking over for the Rays at catcher to probably being on the move soon. And kind of upsetting to hear because I originally did like Dominic Keegan, but he just hasn't progressed, right? He hasn't gotten close to cracking the roster in AAA. He's had injuries. It's probably, with the tandem that the Rays have right now, it's probably best to just, probably move on and sadly not expect much from Dominic Keegan anymore.
Yeah. Aiden Smith, I don't think was invited for spring.
Interesting.
Which I could have seen that happening. I don't think he was. I could be wrong. So the farm is ranked 10th around the league, and I think lately we've gotten accustomed to being a little better than that. So 2024 mid-season rank was number 1. 2025, now guys have come up to the majors as well who were considered there and have been now good major league players. 2025 preseason we were ranked 2. Mid-season we were ranked 10 last year, and now we're 10 again going into this year. So I think we're refreshed, though. There's new guys in here, new competition, and we will see. Besides maybe Brody Hopkins, there's still some young guys who you don't know what you're going to get. I think Theo Gillen has massive potential. Carson, we've talked at length about him. Jacob Melton, these are a couple guys who, if they can sharpen their hit tool, could be really good players, above average major league players. Brody Hopkins, he was exactly who we know he is right now in the spring training starts. Like, maybe the best fastball I've ever seen, just straight up, like high 90s with a very strange angle of attack, very uphill. I mean, you can see the athleticism is what they talk about when he's on the mound. The thing is, this guy cannot find the zone. Like, it's effectively wild at some points, but this is just anti-Rays lately with hating walks. The Rays hate walks. Obviously, if you got a guy who has elite stuff, that's a little bit different. But man, he was exactly what I was kind of saying in my preview. Like, he hasn't sharpened up his mechanics, which I was hoping to see that from him in some of these spring games, and it looks about the same as where he was at in the minors last year. Just a little bit sloppy, and if he could just as he matures, find that consistency, he has the potential to be an ace, and that's why I like him maybe as the number 1 prospect for the Rays. I do.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be number 1. And you have to remember, he has never pitched at AAA, right?
Yeah, he's still so young.
So he's
24, but he's still so young in his progression.
Right. So I anticipate this season in AAA, right? I'm sure we will see him make his debut this year, but the big focus is just going to be just hit the strike zone, right? You don't have to dot the corners. You don't have to go crazy. That's a big Rays idea mindset, right? You have good stuff, just throw it in the strike zone, right?
Yeah.
It's so good. These guys aren't, if they hit it, we have the defense behind it. So I think there's a couple guys, right? You said it, like, Jacob Melton, Carson Williams, Brody Hopkins are obviously the big ones, and even Trey Morgan. We're going to see how they play in AAA. I'll be watching pretty closely at the Durham Bulls this year. I might go to a couple games while I'm over here in North Carolina. So hopefully, right, that these guys take this spring and even their seasons before and make those changes. We might still be 10, but I see this team as a better 10 than the previous 10, right? So we might still be 10, but it's a better 10 than in the past.
We'll get to watch them. We'll get to watch them this year, and keep us posted if you go see any. We want some tidbits if you see anything in person. There's some exciting guys to watch here, and just hopefully the guys immediately on the doorstep, Carson and Jacob Melton, can pan out to be above average major league players. They both have the ability to do that, and hopefully we get to see that this year. I think they're starting in AAA, which is such a weird thing because, and this is my last point here, it's such a weird thing because Carson, I think there's more to learn, but at some point I do start to get a little bit worried, like how much better can they really get at the AAA level? Both of those guys, like Melton's almost 26 years old, and there's not much for him to be gained, I think, at the AAA level. So I feel like that's a little hard for Melton, maybe even more so than Carson. Carson still knows he's rough around the edges, but I feel like Melton's ready to get to the major league level and just start playing. So maybe we'll see. Maybe he will be there opening day. But anything else on prospects and farm?
No, I think we hit it pretty good. I'm excited to see the new guys that get added, right? All the 30 guys probably will not stay. The full 30 guys, guys will get promoted, guys will get dropped off. So I am excited to see the new guys that come in and step up and jump into that top 30. Jacob Melton, I agree with you. He doesn't have too much more to prove at AAA. Does the guy strike out? Sure, but that's probably just when you have such a big power bat that's just going to happen. So, I see him coming up a lot sooner than all the other guys that we kind of chatted about.
Yeah. So it'll be exciting as it always is to talk about prospects and dream on prospects, it's pretty clear and unanimous right now that Connor Griffin is far and away the best prospect in Major League Baseball, and we've seen him flash in spring, and I am hoping that he joins Brandon Lau and Jake Mangum and Mason Montgomery over there playing for the Pirates opening day, because he is special. And some of the write-ups that you've seen on him, just the comps are pretty lofty at I believe he's only 19 years old, and he seems to be handling it well. There's a lot of eyes on him. So that'll be the one non-Rays prospect to be watching this year is really him. I mean, there's a couple guys, up there, but Connor Griffin, what is he going to turn into? He's got massive, massive potential.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's most of what we wanted to cover for episode 2. It seems like things are starting to take shape, and as each day goes by, my anticipation to watch this team play games that actually count continues to grow. And I will be at the Rays home opener, so they've got a road trip out of the gate, which we'll have an episode before the season starts once we know where we're at and speak a little more concretely about things. But man, I'm just really, really looking forward to hitting the ground running here for 2026. So we opened up with Joey Wendell. How would you like to close today? You're coming out of the pen. How you closing?
I am closing with Drew Rasmussen with the opening day nod for this squad. I don't think we chatted about it last time.
Yeah.
Because maybe hurt Shane's feelings a little bit, or people maybe thought, but
I think it's right, though.
Shout out to Drew, man, acquired back in the day for Willy Adames, and has blossomed into this all-star starter that we have for this team. And I'm going to say it now. I think Drew Rasmussen gets a no-hitter this year for the Rays. I think.
Can he get into the ninth? Can he get through the ninth inning? That's the only thing that can stop him.
If he can be efficient, the Rays are going to stretch him a little bit. I think he could get the no this year. So yeah, we're going to close it with Drew Ras no-hitter in 2026, and congrats on getting the opening day nod.
He's special. He's really special. 2023, 2.62 ERA. 2024, injured, but 2.83 ERA. Injuries have been a theme. Last year, 2.76 ERA, got 150 innings in. Just, he's really good, and he deserves it. Yeah. And I'm sure that the rest of the guys are happy for him, and I think it's right for Shane to not be there, but we'll see what happens throughout this year. And I'm going to add another thing to close, and it just occurred to me when I watch Tarek Skubal pitch, I can't help but think about Shane McClanahan. We'll see what a few years ago when he was pitching at the highest level, high 90s fastball, and elite changeup. And that is Tarek Skubal's game. That's what Tarek Skubal does. And so, dream on that one. Well, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed episode 2. We'll have another pod coming out before the start of the season, and I think we're going to ramp up and shoot for weekly in the season. But we appreciate you tuning in to the opener. Take care, and we'll see you soon.